please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Okay, it's been a lazy sort of day this Thursday as we head into the long weekend. One must say 13, 14 points higher on the Nifty. It's recovered back in the green. It's been there for a while. At one point, it looked like it would actually reflect some of the pain that overnight markets, especially Wall Street, saw. But that's not happening yet so far. Advanced decline is actually perilously imbalanced. 1,100 stocks are higher, 920 odd stocks are lower. So it could tilt either way any time. And the mid-cap index is in the red, but it's down just about 4 odd points or so. So we've seen markets basically come back after seemingly wanting to break down a little bit. I'm Prashant Nair. With me is my colleague Sumaira Abdi. Sumaira, afternoon.
Hi Prashant, good afternoon to you as well. M&M sales numbers coming through for Feb, so looking good. There seems to be good growth and the stock higher by about 1%. But let's also take stock of what's happening in the European markets. There, I think the markets have opened a tad bit lower. The key thing to monitor is, of course, the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell's speech. Remember, when he did speak earlier, the congressional testimony that he had, over there he had indicated there could be upwards of 3 rate hikes. So let's see what he says today, and investors, I think, would prefer to be on the sidelines ahead of that speech. But let's take stock of what's happening in our own market. These are our top stories. It's a flat day of trade. Key indices trading with minor cuts, mid-caps in the red as well.
India gets set for a harsh summer. The Met Department warns of an above normal heat wave condition in the March to May period. They also say that the northwest and central parts of India, temperatures there are going to be about 1 degree above the normal.
Well, it's been a good February for the auto sector. Strong sales have been seen across the two-wheelers, tractors, as well as the commercial vehicle space. Bajaj Auto has reported a 31% growth in sales this quarter. Escortson clocked in a robust 52% growth, while Maruti has reported an inline growth of 15%.
Fortis is in focus as the company has reported its second quarter and third quarter numbers. Auditors have said they weren't able to come to a conclusion on the financial statement. Fortis conference call mentions the company's initiated investigation on the related party transaction, and there is a SEBI investigation underway as well.
And Kartika Capital's Teresa Baja says they're concerned about India not exchanging information with foreign exchanges, but it still remains a good long-term story amongst emerging markets. Adds that they will not choose exports over the domestic story stocks just yet.
Okay, those are the top stories, and we'll come to some of them in a bit. You know, there's a flash, of course, M&M tractor sales are there, but there's a Cipla. You heard the interview with Umang Vora coming through just a while back, and there was a flash which was there about revenue growth, and they're saying that revenue growth is actually a bit of a challenge. And there was another flash which said that they're expecting 15 to 20% improvement in margins. So maybe we can talk about that in a bit, but those are the two things I saw for now on Cipla. The interview is still underway. We'll cut back to it a little later. Ashwani Gujral is with us. Ashwani, thanks very much. Good afternoon. Your reading of the comeback that we've seen?
See, it's basically, two narrow range days. Yesterday was narrow range, post the gap down. Today also, we've basically been in yesterday's range. So possibly the big move is likely to happen on Monday. But as we go into the close, there is some sharp and strong short covering, particularly in the financials. So maybe if you have to take the trade for the next couple of hours, being long could be a good idea, because given the amount of shorts we have and a long weekend and no follow through of the global weakness, chances are we could end up higher than where we are right now. As far as individual stocks are concerned, NIIT Tech, that's a buy with a stop of 847, target of 870. IIFL is a buy with a stop of 790, target of 825. And Reliance Power is a sell with a stop of 46, target of 38.
What is the long weekend going to mean for us, Ashwani? I mean, generally, when we come back after 3 days, makes sense to carry positions home, or could turn out to be wild? 2 days worth of action, global.
See, the risk is that US markets, the way it generally acts, If one day it's down 380 and globally you didn't get follow through, then chances are US recovers 250. So if you come on Monday morning, you are sitting on a 250 point US market rally plus a strong Asia. So the shorts don't want to be in that sort of situation. So that will make them cover. It will not change the overall trend of the market, but just that there is no follow through of the overnight weakness will make you cover your shorts.
All right, Ashwani, thank you very much for that. We'll touch base in an hour's time in the beginning of closing bell. Sumeera.
Right, Prashant, let's focus on Fortis for a bit, actually. I mean, that stock has been in the news now for so long. They've announced their numbers finally last evening, and they held a conference call just a short while ago. So let's go across to Ekta for the important takeaways. Ekta, anything that investors need to look out for?
Well, some important takeaways which came in from the Fortis investor call that they held after the numbers were released last night. So, for example, the company has mentioned that they have initiated an investigation going on with regards to the related party transaction issue, and there is already a SEBI investigation going on with this particular case. Remember, that was already qualified in the notes to accounts in yesterday's press release as well. The loan, according to them, which is basically this related party transaction loan of over 470 odd crores, should be fully paid by end of Q1 FY18. Separately, Fortis did mention that they have some challenges with banks due to promoter linkages and in terms of the kind of loans, though they've never defaulted on any loans ever. Separately, they said that they do not believe that Fortis needs to go to court when it comes to any sort of fundraising, so no real connection according to them with regards to the Daiichi arbitration. The auditors have signed off on the report which was released for the Q2 and Q3 numbers, but they have pointed on 3 items in the audit report as per the Fortis management. Nothing is finalized when it comes to the fundraising for funding the RHT transaction, so that's an important point to note. And lastly, the SRL demerger plans could change in case there is an investor that comes in finally for Fortis.
Just a couple of questions, Ekta. So you heard the whole call, right? I mean, and went on for a while. Were there lots of investors on the call asking questions? Any prominent ones? Just trying to get a qualitative sense.
Just to add color to it, we had the management that quite aggressively supported their stand in terms of running the hospital operations as a standalone entity and not connected with all of the noise which has been doing the rounds with regards to Fortis. So if you're just talking about the operations of the company, they did mention that yes, they have been disappointed that the occupancy levels had fallen to around 60 to 62 odd %. They're expecting growth of around growth to be strong in 2018, 2019, and separately there were no real big, high-profile investors on the call itself, but there were a lot of analysts who were quizzing the management. And when they did start the call, they did mention that they have a full house this time round. Generally, Fortis calls in the past have been quite subdued, couple of investors, short in duration. So this time round, you could see that there was a lot of interest in it.
Well, Kartika Capital has long been bullish on India, a view that they continue to maintain. Earlier this morning, though, when we caught up with the co-founder and CEO, Teresa Baja, she did say that she is concerned that Indian exchanges have decided not to share information with their foreign counterparts, though she does add that India still remains amongst the best long-term bets in the EM space.
Value in the Indian stock market has always been a very difficult term to define. As you know, India has always traded more expensive than any other market. But yes, with the U.S. down less than 4% and the MSCI EM down 4.25%, but India down 5.25%. It was a bad showing. And I think from my point of view, the issue really is what's happened to sentiment this year. It is possible that we're going to get the reverse of what we had last year.
How are you looking at the recent developments in India, especially with regard to the banking sector and that big fraud in PNB? Is it a systemic issue?
Yes, so from my point of view, in February particularly, India had 3 own goals. They were really shooting themselves in the foot. One of them was this issue of PNB Bank and a fraud. But I look at that in terms of maybe a longer lens looking at that as a SOE governance issue, just specifically a PSU bank governance issue. We all knew when the recap came that the most important thing was that the government changed permanently the governance of those banks. And now I think you who wake up, it's time to really change the governance of the PSU banks to make sure that this kind of lack of control does not happen again.
So what is your own view on India now, Teresa? It was one of your favorite emerging markets the last time we spoke. Because of these self-goals that India has hit, has your view changed?
Well, I was extraordinarily concerned about the MSCI kerfuffle. It looked really bad from a foreigner's point of view. When you've got these three stock exchanges that are very rivalrous and very much contending with each other at home, all go to Singapore and say, oh, we're not going to give you trading data. It looks like they had a letter from their mother that made them tell them that. And then it turns out it's in order to move their trades to a new exchange in Gujarat. It sounds like the state minister made them do that. So it really doesn't look good at all. And if there's a threat of India coming out of MSCI altogether, that is the end of the world. Now people are talking again and they're negotiating, so it doesn't look like that's likely, but it sure was very, very nervous-making to have that happen at all. And of course, the other issue was the very bad communication regarding long-term capital gains tax. That said, I do see some possible bright spots for 2018, and I'm happy to talk to you about those.
The market's now back in the red. I mean, almost in the red. The bank Nifty's in the red, the Sensex in the red. The mid-cap index was already down, and the Nifty's got 1 point, barely 1 point left on it. And this is basically a swing of what, almost 20 points from when we started at 130. We'll come back to the market in a bit. To CNBC TV18 exclusive now, we learned from sources that Punjab National Bank has invited expressions of interest to acquire a majority stake in Bharat Thermal Power, which is under the SDR, RBI's SDR scheme. I mean, of course, this has got to do something with the RBI's new NPA dispensation. Ritu Singh is now joining in with the details on this. Ritu, over to you.
That's right, Prashant. With RBI's new guidelines for restructuring loans or resolution of loans which are non-performing assets kicking in, there's a lot of pressure on banks to resolve some of these cases that are currently under SDR but have not been implemented. One such case is IBTPL, which is Ind Bharat Thermal Power Limited, which is a subsidiary of Ind Bharat Power Infra in turn, which, remember, was in the market for an IPO for the longest time, even earlier this year, but is yet to file the papers. But that said, Punjab National Bank is the lead bank in this consortium, and the debt has ballooned to over 1,000 crore rupees, started as less than 500 crore rupees, and now Punjab National Bank is looking for a strategic buyer to take 100% majority, 100% stake in the company, along with management control. The minimum reserve price that Punjab National Bank has set for the sale is 823 crore rupees for the settlement of the lender's liabilities. There's an 18-member consortium in which PNBs lead. There's Canada, UCO, Axis Bank, Bank of India, SBI, among the other 18 lenders that are present. The SDR deadline will also expire later this year, but before that, if they're unable to resolve this account, it becomes an NPA as of as soon as the new RBI guidelines kick in. Therefore, banks are looking to close this deal very soon. Remember, this coal-based thermal power plant is based in Tamil Nadu and has a 300 megawatt capacity.
All right, Ritu, thanks very much for joining in with those details. Auto sales continuing to come through. SML's Isuzu not actually looking very good. So total sales are down about 16% and the stock down about 1%. But let's shift focus to another exclusive story. Sources tell us that the due diligence legal report of Canfin Homes from ALMT Legal is now ready. Abhishek Kothari has the details and the background. Abhishek.
Well, Sumaira, the actual commercial bid date was yesterday, that is 28th February 2018. But what has happened is this has been postponed. Why? Because the due diligence report from the legal entity, that is ALMT Legal Advisors, has just come in on Monday. And therefore, you know, the bidders have asked for an extension of time to read that report carefully and then submit their bid. Due diligence report from Deloitte is already ready, and that has already been given to Canara Bank. So this ALMT report that came in on Monday has led to that increase in commercial bid date, which was yesterday, that is 20th Feb, has been now extended to 7th March 2018. Now remember that, you know, commercial bid date, as I mentioned, was yesterday, and Canara Bank holds about 30.44% stake in Canfin Homes. There are, as we spoke to RBL Bank, they have sent a team, and that team is again meeting Canfin management, that is the second line of management today. Well, private equity players like Baring has also shown a lot of interest, lot of question has been sent by them to Canfin Homes, and they are getting clarity. So there's a lot of interest in this Canara Bank stake in Canfin Homes. Back to you.
Okay, Abhishek, thanks very much for that. There's some news Sapna is sending in that according to the Finance Ministry, the government has ordered the shutting down of 35 international branches of PSU Bank. So we'll just touch base with Sapna and try and get some more details on this exactly. That's the news that's flashing for you now at the bottom of your screen. 35 international branches of PSU banks to be shut down. Prashant, I don't know, but it seems a little retrograde, right? Actually just go and shut down. I mean, is it because we'll have to see what the reason for this is actually, but is it because they're not doing well, or is it some sort of a fallout of the recent?
It looks like the fallout, Sumaira, but the only question which one will have to ask is whether everything has been audited, people have taken stock of whether this was necessary. Does this mean that these 35 international branches essentially were you know, not operating as per proper guidelines? Was something wrong? Those are you know, additional questions which will arise, and we don't have the answers.
So additional information is that 68 more international branches as well as foreign offices of PSU banks are being examined for closure as well. So it doesn't stop with just shutting down of 35 branches.
35 shutting down and more examinations.
68 on the knockout list. In fact, Sapna Das has more details. Sapna, what is it that has led to this move, and the other details that you can share with us?
Okay, I think we'll just have Sapna back on the line. We lost the line there, but this is important news, and this is the first, in a way, I mean, the first direct action coming in from the Finance Ministry after this entire PNB thing
Rajiv
came
Kumar has also tweeted. He's saying that PSU banks will consolidate 35 overseas operations without affecting the international presence of PSU banks in these countries. 69 operations have been identified for further examination, and it's a move towards cost efficiencies and synergies in the overseas market. So at least on the face of it, it doesn't seem like... Sapna, hi, you're back with us. Tell us more.
Yeah, so basically this is an ongoing process of by the government in terms of the reforms agenda. Cost rationalization, the utility of these branches, also the kind of profitability that they have, you know, kind of indicated so far. So on all these parameters, these steps are being taken. So 35 plus 68 under examination. And the point that the government is trying to make over here is that there won't be any overlapping of branches of various PSBs in the international cities. That's what the point is. Not
Sapna,
that
just a quick, just a quick point. If this was about cost rationalization, etc., right? I mean, efficiencies. Why is this coming in from the Finance Ministry? I mean, this should come from individual banks, right?
No, so basically that point has also been explained. You know, these are recommendations, or these decisions are being taken after a high-level committee that was headed by 4 to 5 top banks. They are the ones who have actually decided on this, and it's now that the implementation has started. So the ministry is also involved, because obviously the government is the primary owner of public sector banks. So this has also been done in terms of consultation. But the point that they're trying to make is, you know, very clear that we are trying to work on the reform agenda. This was also earlier announced at the time of the recapitalization.
Right.
This is all part of that, and it's an ongoing exercise.
So yes, branches are being shut down, but the point also is that there won't be any overlapping. So it's not that in, say, for example, in Hong Kong that you won't have any public sector bank branch, but it's just that you won't have all of them together over there. So, this is pointing towards rationality. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, and the tweet goes on to say that the implementation is based on a strict timeline, though what that timeline is, we don't know yet. Sapna, thanks very much for joining in. We'll wrap up on Mid Cap Radar. Do stay tuned. Your stocks will take the market action forward.